Kwana, the conversation is now with you.
Hello, Ria. Another beautiful day here in the FCT, and of course, we're here to give you the brief, so stay tuned. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians. Just one day to the Democracy Day. TJ, I think all is set for us to celebrate or to commemorate the June 12th.
Let's see how that happens.
Okay, as Nigeria marks another Democracy Day, attention is once again turning to the state of the nation, the journey of democratic governance, and the impact of leadership on the lives of citizens. 3 years into the administration of President Bola Tinubu, conversations across the country continue to focus on economic reforms, infrastructure development, security, governance, and the overall direction of the nation. Now, today, we take a look at the administration's performance so far, reflecting on its major policy decisions, achievements, challenges, and the expectations of Nigerians as the government moves forward.
From the removal of fuel subsidy and foreign exchange reforms to social intervention programs and efforts to stimulate economic growth, the Tinubu administration has remained at the center of the national discourse. To help us walk through these issues and provide informed perspective on the administration's journey ahead of June 12, Democracy Day, we are joined by Public Affairs Analyst David Gbole. He will be sharing his insights on the government's records so far, the public perception of its policies, and what the future may hold for Nigeria's democracy and development. Mr. Gbole, it's good to have you in our studio.
Thank you very much, TJ and Eshamoma. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Well, 27 years of unbroken democracy, and yet Nigerians are still lamenting. We see rising protests all around Nigeria for one issue or the other. We're still battling insecurity. Nigerians are still, suffering the pain from harsh economic reforms, and yet the administration promised renewed hope. Now, my question is, do we see any light at the end of the tunnel after 27 years?
Okay, to put this discussion in proper frame, I think we'll go to the beginning of the tunnel. It will give us, some perspective on this matter, and perhaps it will enable us to school a new generation as to where we're coming from. Specifically, on the 17th of February, 1958, that is 2 years before our independence, the first 18,000 tons of crude oil left Oloibiri in Rivers State in a vessel known as Hemephasus for Europe. And that was 8 years of oil discovery before the state of Dubai, and 11 years of oil sales before the state of Dubai. And between that time, 1958 and 1971, Nigeria became the 10th member of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and also the 7th largest oil-producing nation on the face of the earth. It was the days of dollar deluge or dollar rain, where we became so wealthy that one of our head of state said, it is where to invest this money now that is a problem, not the presence of the resources. So down the line, we had a brutal civil war, coup d'etats that took about 29 years out of our democratic journey. And today, from 1999 to 2026, we are graciously having 27 years of uninterrupted democracy. And that falls within the Tinubunomics, or 3 years of the Tinubunomics that we are interrogating here today. If you look at Dubai between that time and now, it is a rehearsal of heaven. And if you look at Nigeria, that has more potentials, began oil sales before it, discovered oil before it, Nigeria is the opposite. I won't want to say it is a rehearsal of hell, like Dubai is a rehearsal of heaven. Those are the things that we have seen. So Tinubunomics is nothing but another block in the journey of Nigeria's, democratic process. While we may not be where we used to be, our ship has taken off. But I must say that we are far from the dividends of democracy or the prosecution of governance as far as our potentials, for democracy and its dividends is concerned. Our ship has not anchored yet. It is on troubled waters. There are certain gains in these 3 years of Tinubu's administration that we must look at, and also there are certain pains. You started with the pains, but I want to start with the gains. The first one is the boldness, the effrontery to to dare the monster of subsidy and to remove subsidy. It is a long time coming. Successive administrations before now have even attempted it. Others have muted it. Others, they dreamt about it, and the dream became a nightmare, too big for them to dare. But Tinubu, took the courage to remove subsidy. Even though the timing for that subsidy and also the shock parts necessary for the subsidy to rest well are subjects we will discuss later. But that is something. Then the liberalization of the dollar is another major reform that we must credit the Tinubu administration with. And then a few of the FDIs that is trying to stimulate the economy, local measures also to stimulate the economy, palliatives, funds transfer, and all of those matters, they are dividends that, and then finally, this monster of local government autonomy that Tinubu dared, and the judicial actions up to Supreme Court, that is the first time that this thing is challenged headlong. Right. These are gains that we must give credit to this administration in these 3 years. All
right. So, Gbole, I like the items you just mentioned. You talked about the boldness to remove the fuel subsidy. You talked about the exchange, the liberalization of the exchange rate. You talked about the local government autonomy. There's something also that happened our democracy in 1999, and that was the agitation for devolution of powers. While we're talking about these key issues that the president has, the decisions he's just taken, and that are very key and fundamental for our democracy, how far have we gone when we talk about devolution of powers or true federalism?
You see, the matter of true federalism stands at the center of democratic success, as far as any nation that practices democracy is concerned. The center is still too heavy. It is true federalism is still a mirage for us. We are pursuing it, but we have not attained it. I cannot even say we are even pursuing it, concretely and resolutely and intentionally. The center is still too large. The center is still too strong, while the other federating units of the state government and the local government remain very weak. In fact, I would dare to say we have 2 tiers of government and not 3 tiers of government, because the local government is still tied to the apron strings of the state governments. There is no direct funding to the local governments yet because of this demon of joint account that state governors are in a deep romance with. And the local government authorities cannot challenge this and try to enforce this autonomy, because local government chairmen were usually not elected, they were selected. They do the bids and then the callings of the state governors. So you see that the elements that makes a tier of government are present in the federal, they are present in the state, but they are not present in the local government. So the local government is actually an appendage of the state government. So as we progress, we must retweak our approach to devolution to ensure that the production units that really strengthen our democracy is given more attention than the supervisory unit of the federal government that looks at these matters. For instance, there is a Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Where is the land that Federal Ministry of Agriculture will produce? Lands are vested in state governments. And then the local governments are the grassroots where a lot of these agricultural activities take place. What is the use of a Federal Ministry of Agriculture? Mining and all of those matters that are on the exclusive list, they are within states and they are within local governments. And this mining now is a cause of a lot of insecurity that we are going to be discussing later, because of crisis entrepreneurs that are taking advantage of all of this matter. So the issue of federalism has to be looked into with the emphasis on devolution of powers to the state, and then a strengthening of the local government to become a tier of government that will prosecute development at the grassroots.
The gains that you speak of this current administration has led to, according to government, increased revenues and higher foreign reserves and investor confidence. But why does it seem that this microeconomics, or like the Tinubunomics you mentioned, why does it appear disconnected from the daily realities of an everyday Nigerian?
You see, removal of subsidy has afforded states or the federating units, or let me say states basically, a lot of resources, such that the matter of prosecuting governance or development should be a win-win situation. It shouldn't be a hard thing right now. Payment of salaries, infrastructural development, there is ample opportunities for that to happen right now. But you see, Tinubu even came up one time and he said, state governors, you need to wet the grass. There are no connecting policies and implementation framework that will enable the huge resources state governments are receiving to trickle down to the grassroots where development should be felt by the common man. You see, when we talk about the subsidy removal, which afforded local governments, state governments, all of these resources, you saw that the timing for that subsidy removal is ill. The subsidy removal was ill-timed. If the government had, refused to announce it, the cabals of the oil sector will not wake up to fight that matter. It should be that shock pads, shock measures, cushioning measures economically are put in place before the subsidy removal is done, so that the impact of it on, number one, food systems and transportations, which are the nerve centers of everyday life, is not there. And then the unemployment matter also. Because in Nigeria today, if you put unemployment and underemployment together, we are talking about 68% now. And that contributes to the 73 to 78% of people who are living below the international poverty line of $2 per day. So this has not trickled down because the governments or the state governments and governors are holding the money in GP tanks and the water is not trickling down to the people. Why? There is no connecting implementation framework that will enable these subsidy windfalls to be democratized into variables of microeconomics. All of these reforms now are macro level. They have not been translated into the micro level because the common man is concerned about the micro level that touches his everyday life. Food inflation, transportation, energy cost, and so on. There's no connecting implementation framework. That is the missing link.
Okay, Mr. Gbole, I think democracy, there ought to be a time for us to have a reset as a people. You look at where you're coming from, and you look at the journey ahead, and you take certain bold decisions. You just rightly said that the president took a bold decision, whether it is subsidy or the foreign exchange and all that. Now, what can we do going forward to ensure that states also take some bold decisions? Because whether we like it or not, if we're going to have true development that will get to the grassroots, the states must be on the same page with the federal government. Because if they're working at cross purpose, we'll have crisis. So what can be done? We're entering an election year also, for the states to wake up to its responsibility that on this Democracy Day, we have resolved to take bold decisions that can turn around our various states, so that people will not begin to complain, federal government has not done this. Meanwhile, it's really the states.
Two inhibiting factors. Number one, the strong move towards a one-party state, which is gradually weakening and crippling opposition in Nigeria, is something that is standing as a clog in the wheel of what you have just muted. In a situation where over 30 states of Nigeria belong to the same party, opposition has, the space for opposition's voices is shrinking. That is number one. And then, number two thing, we are in an election year right now. And you notice that anytime we enter an election year, governance takes backstage and politics comes to the fore. So whatever ideas you think Nigeria should be implementing now, there is little ground that can fertilize the implementation of those ideas within the next 1 year. Governors are struggling for their tickets, struggling to gain a space, struggling to gain a larger share of structures within their states now in preparation for the election. I think whatever we are talking about now, we can revisit that conversation when we enter into a new dispensation where the governors of these states now can have some time ahead of them to be able to prosecute what we are talking about. So to say states, you wake up now, no, states cannot wake up now. They are so drunk in a stupor of election, they cannot wake up to governance now. Let's take that.
Well, if there's any challenge that Nigerians will agree that they suffer right now or is quite worrisome to them right now is the issue of security, which you touched on lightly earlier. And government seems to say, it's handling the situation, and there seems to be some progress according to what government says. But Nigerians seem to disagree. We see kidnappings every day. We see communities being attacked every day. Do you think that the government at this moment is winning the war against insecurity?
We can say that the war against insecurity was going backwards at a slow pace, but in the last 3 years, it seems to have entered a major speed gear in the backward direction. We are not winning the war. There was some respite, some level of hope when that international collaboration with the US came. You saw Nigerians jubilating because we had come to a point where we needed help and we needed to admit that we needed that help. Just the mere announcement, there was a ray of hope all over Nigeria because the current, insecurity situation in the nation, number one, is such that even our military, they are overstretched, they are demoralized. And every single day, like you rightly observed, there are kidnappings, there are killings, sacking of communities, and even the military themselves are not spared. Our soldiers have paid the supreme price in this season more than any other season. Then the question we ask is this: what if we now begin to switch our tactics from deployment of troops on ground to drone and technological warfare? Don't you think we are going to be reducing casualties? Don't you think we're going to safeguard communities much more without the supreme price being paid by our military? How come our defense budgets are rising, yet the killings are also rising with the defense budgets? Those are questions we need to ask ourselves. Where are the Tokano jets?
Do you think this has anything to do with the fact that we are approaching an election year, or it's politically motivated?
No. The serpent we did not deal with in Genesis is what is becoming a dragon in Revelation. What were the underlying factors? Number one, the sponsors of terrorism. We have not gone after them. Consequence management as far as terrorism is concerned is still very low in Nigeria. People have not been brought to book openly to serve as deterrent to others. So where is the list of terror sponsors? And what has been done to them? And then number three, the saboteurs within the military ranks, have they been fished out? Number four, this de-radicalization and reintegration of repentant terrorists and so on. Don't you think it is a major setback in our effort to win the war? All of these matters are matters that have, snowballed into aggravating the insecurity situation within Nigeria. And until these salient issues are dealt with, the effort of our soldiers and military on the ground is nothing but feeding them to the monster of insecurity.
All right. Never before in the history of this country have we had a government, that's taken the issue of state police seriously like this. And the National Assembly is just at the verge of voting for state police, so that the bill so that it will be transmitted to the various states for also their own voting and all that. But in an election year, like we said earlier, are we saying that with the emergence of state police, it's a done deal in our fight against these criminals? Or are there things we should be mindful of so that we don't birth a new structure of state police and we now have trouble in our hands again? So what should be taken a look at by the National Assembly and the various states in making that law?
You see, the first thing we should be looking at is community policing. Community policing, where the components of security education for the general citizens is put at the fore. Community policing, where there is shared intelligence between the people and security agencies. It will help to nip terrorism and all of these insecurity matters in the bud. Because insecurity is better nipped in the bud than you allow it to boomerang before the military people are coming to form some fake Jack Bowers around carrying brandishing guns and so on. Community policing. The Mossad, or Israel's intelligence network, as at 2010, they had 820 staff only worldwide. But Israel, despite surrounded with all of the crisis and so on around it, it is still safe. People are going there for pilgrimage. What is it now? What is the secret there? Every Israeli, from down in the north to Beersheba in the south, have security intelligence. They know how to profile criminal elements. and the know-how. The reporting channels are there. So the nexus between the Nigerian people and the security agencies should be strengthened. That is what is community policing. Then this matter of state police is something that has been on the debate for a long time. A lot of people see it or receive it with suspicion because of the tendencies for state governors to use them as weapons against their political opponent. All of those fears are there. But eventually, we must evolve into that state policing matters, especially with increased revenues to state government now. State governments can be able to recruit, train, and fund state police. We should be looking in that direction. Then, the framework for sifting through individuals that will be recruited is something that is worrisome. It's something that we must also look at, especially in communities under threat, states that are prone to insecurity or terrorism or radicalization. All of those matters should be put so that the people recruited are people who are, number one, religiously, politically, socially, and economically, not let me say, morally burdened to do in a particular direction. Let Nigeria be their focus. So all of those matters should be taken into consideration, and then state policing can work. But there is potential for state policing, and we must begin to look at it. But of course, it's not in this election year. It is when things settle down that we can do that vote. Any of those votings now, just watch it now. We have muted a lot of these policies before in election year to be able to gain the confidence, voter confidence, and so on, that yes, we are doing something about insecurity. But we all know they are just, election impressionistic moves. It will not happen within this season. They just come out of public hearing for the state policing matter, and then they are putting the memorandums to the particular House committees, and then they will bring it to the fore for them to begin to start voting on that matter. But it's going to be put on the shelf until the new administration comes, and then we can look at those matters critically.
Well, Democracy Day is about accountability, and if there's anything that critics have, accused this government about, and probably previous governments, is about accountability, transparency, and perception of political patronage. If Nigerians were to conduct a midterm referendum on the president's performance today, what do you think the verdict will be, and why?
On a scale of 1 to 10, this administration is going to score 3. We'll give it 3. Because they came on the tripod of security, improved economy, rule of law, and all those major tripod. We are their, mantra in the renewed hope. But if you are to draw a line of performance in these 3 years, I think they have scored just 1 point for the first year, 1 point for the second year, 1 point for the third year. That's why I'm giving them 3 over 10. When they had potentials actually to have scored maybe 7 over 10 or 8, because government is a continuum. One government is supposed to be building on the successes of the other while diminishing the weakness of the previous administration. So, the matter of security ranks top. It affects the Nigerian person every single day. Even if it does not affect you directly, it affects your mental health to know that those people kidnapped in your state, what is their release matter like? It will affect your mental health to see that bandits are raping our women. It will affect your mental health to see that barracks are being attacked at will by the terrorists without air support to defend our military barracks. Generals are paying supreme price, killed by terrorists like common soldiers in the battlefront. All of these matters should affect your psyche. And then the economic aspect of it. Inflation reached 31% for the first time. 42 then dropped to 31%. And, the failure of the local government autonomies, and then the absence of FDIs, foreign direct investment, that can create employment and reduce poverty and unemployment. Okay. All of those matters are things we are still taking up this administration on in the light of the pains and not the gains.
Mr. Gbole, I want to question some of what you just said, that you rate it 3 over 10. Let me say this. We've gone through this route before. Between 2010 and 2011, when former President Goodluck Jonathan was going to seek re-election, we knew what happened with insecurity. It was said that if you contest, we'll make Nigeria ungovernable for you. And indeed, for the 4 years he held sway, certain characters made Nigeria ungovernable for him. That at the point he had to postpone the election. Now, we've had a trajectory where on the eve of an election, especially when you're seeking a re-election, certain intents come in to politicize. And that's why people are saying that politically motivated. Now, if we place that side by side, the efforts of the government to deal with insecurity and the heightened insecurity, it's a fact that, yes, we have a lot of insecurity. But would it be sufficient to say that the government have not put in certain measures to ensure that, look, the society gets secured, especially with the aspect of driving the force for state police? Would we say that that is not a step in the right direction, and also not minding the fact that, look, certain political indications are also there?
You see, excuses are the graveyards of great men who have chosen to
not just
small.
excuses, but place side by side with the history we have as a country.
Excuses. We did not elect you to give excuses. We did not elect you to also relieve negative precedences that have happened in the past. If it has crystallized into a pattern, then you have been forewarned. And to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Knowing that as we approach election years, there are crisis entrepreneurs who will seek to use insecurity or crisis to decrease the reputation of the current government for their own political gains. Knowing those things, you should have put measures in place to be able to tackle all of these occurrences or incidences. Like I was saying, why have we not moved from physical warfare to technological warfare when we have all of these potentials in place? The army of our young people who are very tech savvy, they have become the who that make Yahoo, instead of using their talents to produce the drones and the UAVs that can increase our efficiency in the battlefront. We had 3 years to be able to do this. We had international collaborations to be able to do this. We had the money to be able to do this. And then this terror financing matter also. We are trying to be able to fish them out and to deal decisively with them in the interest of political will. If you don't do these things, then you fertilize the ground for crisis entrepreneurs to sabotage your government in an election season. So we Nigerians are saying we are not accepting excuses. You had time to pre-think, pre-plan, and to pre-engage all of these issues. Yes, there are crisis entrepreneurs, but they should never be used as excuses for failure in the issue of security.
As we wind down this conversation, when historians eventually write the story of the Tinubu presidency, will the period be remembered as a painful foundation of Nigeria's recovery, or a missed opportunity that asked too much of Nigerians and delivered too little in return?
I want to see it as a half-full situation. In my chronic optimism and mental positioning that believes in the glorious destiny for Nigeria, I want to see it as a half-full situation where I take the pains we are going through now as the labor pangs of a pregnant woman. But if a pregnant woman refuses or shies away from those labor pangs, she will never embrace the joy of motherhood. I believe that a greater Nigeria is in the making, and we're just going through the bed pangs right now. That's what I have chosen to see it. So it now behoves citizens to rise in their highest office to begin to demand accountability of governance, and to also begin to put the structures in place that holds leaders, to their words, to be able to deliver. Because the office of the citizen is the highest office, not the political offices. So I am a chronic believer that Nigeria can be better. So I choose to see it as bedpangs in readiness for the betting of a new and prosperous Nigeria. So there are good foundations, like the subsidy removal is a good thing, but ill-timed, because of the social shock paths that were not put in place. But it is something we'll be grateful to this administration for. Very, very important.
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions on the program. That's where we'll leave the conversation this morning. It's a delight speaking with you always. Thank you so much, Mr. Gbole.
Thank you, TJ. Thank you, Eshamomo.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.